The showery rain, sleet and snow does filter its way a little bit further southwards as we go overnight, so into some parts of central southern England, but really the snow here confined to the highest ground. Clearer skies across parts of Scotland, allowing temperatures to plummet. It is going to be a very cold night. Quite widely, some frost and some icy patches for us to watch out for. We have a northerly wind, Arctic air coming down from the north. So as we go into tomorrow, plenty of showers falling as a mixture of rain, sleet and snow piling into northern parts of Scotland, but also some western and eastern fringes too. Also some wintry showers across Northern Ireland through the morning. Watch out for icy stretches here. Down the eastern side of England there will be some wintry showers, and also in the southeast the hangback of some of that showery rain, sleet and hill snow perhaps from earlier on in the night. Through the day a lot of that rain, sleet and hill snow in the southeast will clear away, and actually many places having some fine dry sunny weather, but in those places exposed to that northerly wind will continue with those wintry showers, even some feeding into the far southwest of Wales and maybe into parts of Cornwall too. Temperatures are going to be on the low side, a little bit lower than today for many places. It's going to feel cold, especially in those brisk northerly winds. A similar story as we go through the end of the day tomorrow. More showers in areas exposed to that northerly wind, and they are going to be quite readily falling as sleet or snow over higher ground. A similar story on Thursday. Most places fine, but some showers near the coast, and then rain arriving later Friday.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the UK. We're truly humbled, and we couldn't have done it without you.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M4 eastbound between Penlegaya and Llangeffelach is closed due to an accident causing delays. In Ballindalloch, adverse weather and a broken-down HGV affect travel on the A95 near Bridge of Avon. In East Riding of Yorkshire, a broken vehicle blocks the A63 eastbound exit slip, leading to lane closures. In Cambridgeshire, a collision on the A14 westbound closes all lanes. Staffordshire's A38 northbound faces 10-minute delays due to congestion. And on the trains, disruptions are reported on the Elizabeth Line and Greater Anglia between London Liverpool Street and Stratford. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dewbs & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live, and they'll hear loads of questions being asked, and they'll be thinking, that's not my question, that's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering. You're all standing on the street protesting and wanted to have an open discussion.
My name's Patrick Christys. I do a show for GB News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GB News, and that's what sets us apart.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs & Co. Coming up tonight, the Home Secretary is standing firm with her tougher migration plans despite opposition mounting. And figures out today show that net migration is down. Good, shout many people. But hold on a second. It's largely because Brits have been leaving. Get this, it was estimated that 77,000 people left last year, when in fact it was closer to 260,000 Brits left. What's your thoughts on that? Also tonight, we've seen both Reform UK and the Tories giving press conferences this morning. Let's take a look at what both of them had to say. All of that and lots more. Have you seen what's been going on in relation to China? We'll get into it all. Pollster and academic Matt Goodwin alongside me, as is the Labour peer, Lord Glassman. But before we get stuck in, here are your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Michelle, thank you. The top stories. Donald Trump has welcomed the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to the White House. The pair are discussing a defence pact, AI investments and the war in Gaza. The Crown Prince says Saudi Arabia will invest $1 trillion in the United States. The US president's initial remarks in the meeting focused in large part on the US economy and his arguments that it's improved since his predecessor Joe Biden left the White House.
We inherited a mess. You actually told me you thought the country was in big trouble. I'm not going to use the exact word that you use. I refuse to say that you thought our country was dead a year and a half, 2 years ago. But our country was in trouble, and now we have the hottest country in the world. Between the tariffs and the election, November 5th election, we've done things that nobody can believe. $21 trillion will be the amount invested in the United States or committed to invest in 1 year.
Elsewhere, Nigel Farage has backed Shabana Mahmood's asylum crackdown after the Home Secretary told the Reform UK leader to sod off. Mr Farage told a Central London press conference today, rhetorically, we would agree with a lot of what she said.
Frankly, I don't actually think that most of what she said will make any difference at all. And as for the gimmick, you know, we're going to take away people's watches and earrings, and I mean, this is just never going to happen. And rhetorically, fine, following very many of the things that we've been saying for some years, but in practice, I doubt much of it will actually happen.
It comes as the Home Secretary unveiled one of the toughest asylum shake-ups in decades. She says she'll get her reforms through Parliament, despite anger from the Labour Party and unexpected backing from the Conservatives. Her plan brings in 20-year waits for permanent residency, tougher and faster removals, new visa bans and an end to guaranteed financial support. But critics warn the package is dystopian and inhumane. However, she insists it's the package that'll restore order and control at the border. Net migration to the UK last year was 20% lower than previously thought, according to revised figures from the ONS. The difference between those entering and leaving the country, has been revised down by 86,000 people and now stands at 345,000 last year. The driving factor behind the change is that more British nationals are thought to have emigrated in 2024 than initially recorded, with 100,000 fewer now thought to be living in the UK. Migration peaked higher than previously thought, according to the figures, adding 944,000 to the UK population between April of 2022 and March of 2023. A spokesperson for the Chinese embassy says accusations that China is trying to interfere with the UK's sovereign affairs are pure fabrication and malicious slander. It comes as a message that's circulated to all parliamentary staff, says the Chinese Ministry of State Security is using LinkedIn, recruitment firms and professional headhunters to make contact, gather information and build long-term relationships. 2 individuals posing as recruiters have been singled out as operating at scale on behalf of Beijing, with MI5 warning other fake profiles are also being used as espionage fronts. Security Minister Dan Jarvis says the government will not tolerate covert and calculated attempts to interfere with the UK's sovereign affairs. Mr Jarvis announced a package of measures in the House of Commons today to tackle espionage threats to the UK. These included £170 million to upgrade encrypted technology for government business, as well as new protections against Chinese cybercrime and attempts to influence UK university research. Reform UK and the Conservatives are accusing the Chancellor of planning stealth tax rises to plug a multi-billion-pound budget shortfall. Meanwhile, Labour says the Tories have barefaced cheek after crashing the economy and leaving a £22 billion gap behind. Kemi Badenoch says Sir Keir Starmer needs a reality check, urging all parties to face up to the scale of the problem and stop dodging tough decisions.
It is wrong of him to deceive people, lie to them and make them think this is going to be easy. Government is difficult. That is what we learned. And we need parties in our country, not just Reform, but the Greens and the Lib Dems, to get a grip and start fixing the issues we have rather than living in la-la land.
And finally, the Princess of Wales has called for more dignity for carers and a greater respect for values such as tenderness and business in her first public speech in 2 years. At an event in the City of London, Princess Catherine called on 80 top business leaders to play their part in ensuring employees can have healthy family lives.
Every child deserves respect and safety, and everyone who cares deserves recognition and appreciation. Every act of care creates community because we're all essentially weavers of that same fabric. I believe in restoring the dignity to the quiet, often invisible work of caring, of loving well, as we look to build a happier, healthier society.
And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in an hour. Now it's back to Michelle.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you very much for that, Tatiana, and hello, good evening to each and every single one of you. How are you doing tonight? My name's Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co, keeping you company till 7 alongside me, pollster, academic and GB News presenter Matt Goodwin. Alongside him, I've got Leah Burp here, Lord Glassman. Good evening, gents. You're very welcome tonight. Of course, each and every single one of you are always welcome. Join the conversation in all the usual ways. Email me gbviews@gbnews.com. Go to the website gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet or you can X me. Lots that we need to get into, ladies and gents. You've slept on it now. Shabana Mahmood's proposals when it comes to migration. What do you think about it in the cold light of day to day? I'll come on to that. But before I do, let me just pick up something Tatiana was just talking about there. When it comes to the latest twists and turns and going on with China, my question to you, you know, there's been a lot of umming and ahhing about this so-called super embassy. What on earth are we playing at, even contemplating letting them have a super embassy? Just to be clear, ladies and gents, this super embassy, it will be 10 times larger than the size of their current embassy. It would become the largest diplomatic mission in Europe and China's biggest overseas embassy. Why are we even considering this?
Because we're still trapped in the delusions of the 2010s, years 2000s. China is our enemy. We've got to absolutely face up to it. They're a hostile power. They spy on us. They spy on their own people. There's no religious freedom. It's a complete surveillance state. It's a really hostile interest, and why we are still going through with this being nicey-nicey to China, I don't understand.
Well, China have said, and I quote, that these suggestions are malicious slander and pure fabrication. You can be the judge of that. But actually, when you criticise China, you talk about some of the goings-on in that state. Many people worry about these plans for things like digital ID that Labour seem determined to foist upon us.
Oh, it's not just Labour. Amazon put tags on their workforce to stop them going to the loo in their lunch break. You know, there's a surveillance culture that China's pioneered, and we should be opposed to all of it.
Yeah, but your party's not opposed to it. You're looking at making digital ID mandatory.
Yeah, well, we've got to find a way of knowing. Actually, over all these last 40 years, we've got no idea who's in our country. So I'm completely open to hearing what the alternative to digital ID. I don't like the sound of it.
That's people trying to pull a fast one. Making out that we're considering digital ID as in some effort to get illegal migration under control, that's not what's driving.
What I want to know is who's in the country and who can claim benefit. I'm not in support of digital
everyone's got
ID.
the national insurance numbers for that.
I'm not in favour of ID. That doesn't seem to have worked at all when it comes to treatment on the national health and other access to welfare. We've got to find a better way of knowing who's in our country. I'm not saying I support digital ID. I'm saying for the first time I'm looking at it, go, give me an alternative.
I know I'm going off topic, I know I am, and I'll come back on topic in a second, but it doesn't sit well with me, this whole notion that actually the current government could force digital ID, make it mandatory on all of us. This was not in their manifesto. No one voted for this kind of stuff. I think it's appalling.
Well, I agree. It wasn't in Labour's manifesto. It's another example of the democratic contract being violated by this party. There's so much that has not been in any of the two big parties' manifestos that has been imposed on the British people regardless. And to be frank, Michelle, I don't trust the British state actually anymore with ID. I don't trust a state that couldn't even preside over things like, the Horizon scandal, the NHS blood scandal, that's been pretty incompetent on all of the big issues of the day. So I'm pretty firmly opposed to digital ID.
It might be one of the reasons. I'm not suggesting it is just about digital ID, but later on in the programme we'll talk about net migration. Loads of people are so chuffed today because it's come out that net migration has actually reduced. They're celebrating this fact, but they shouldn't be celebrating it actually, because one of the primary reasons that net migration is down, ladies and gents, is because of the sheer volume of British nationals that have actually decided to leave this country. I'll come on to that, don't you worry about it. But the fallout then to Shabana Mahmood's proposals yesterday, getting tougher on immigration, the fallout is kind of mounting, lots of opposition, as you would expect actually, against some of these proposals. Did you back her suggestions?
No, I didn't. And it's been interesting to see many Labour MPs opposing Shabana Mahmood because they think she is far right, or they think that this is somehow a toxic response to the border crisis, when in reality, while I actually appreciate Shabana Mahmood's attempt to try and push the Overton window a little bit more in the direction of common sense, the blunt reality, as I've said on this show many times before, is that until we leave the European Convention on Human Rights, until we repeal Tony Blair's Human Rights Act, we are not going to be able to control our borders. And the idea that this is somehow similar to what Denmark has done. Remember, Denmark itself has been held up by the European courts when it's tried to put in place these hardline policies. This is not the answer to the border crisis. It's why 10,000 people have crossed since Shabana Mahmood's appointment. And the small boat crisis will continue until we regain control over our own laws. It's that simple.
Let me just remind you, in case you had a long sleep and you missed it all yesterday, the Labour's reforms, these are what they're planning, making refugee status temporary, making them have to potentially therefore return if indeed their country is deemed to be safe, moving, the current period is 5 years, they're extending that to 20 years potentially before you can get settlement, overhauling the Human Rights Act, as we've just been hearing, not leaving the ECHR but tinkering with it, using AI to verify the age of these migrants. This one was one that got you guys talking yesterday. The introduction of safe and legal routes, what does that look like? And the visa bans on those three nations. I've got to tell you, those three nations that combined had sent the sum total of about 1,400 people, if that. So, I mean, I found that one quite interesting. But anyway, did you support your Home Secretary on these moves?
Totally support. Very surprised, Matt. I of course support leaving the ECHR or scrapping the Human Rights Act, but this is the most significant shift by a Home Secretary in 60 years. You're kind of trashing it. And the other thing I want to dispute you about is about democratic this and that. Every government has to act. Not everything could be laid out in a manifesto, so there's a completely legitimate space for action. But to get back to Shabana, I think this is just the beginning of the move. I really, really genuinely appreciate her political courage, the way she took the argument to the Labour Party and to the House yesterday. I haven't seen someone so dominant in the House of Commons really since Thatcher. It was a genuinely strong performance. I would expect, Michelle, a little bit of generosity of heart from you.
But can I just come back in on this? The reason I'm frustrated is because of all the people in the country who have been sold one gimmick after another. We've had Rwanda, we had one in, one out.
I get it.
We had Smash the Gangs, all of that. Here's what I want to hear from Shabana Mahmood. What's the limit on the cap for safe and legal routes that she's going to introduce? How many people are going to be included in these new work and study routes? How many people are coming over from Gaza with this new student scheme? There's a lot of loopholes here that I think Labour MPs are going to exploit to bring in more people from outside this country through the back door. What I want is a strong democracy that's responsive to people, to voters, to citizens, and that means regaining control of the borders, and that means leaving the ECHR, so Articles 3 and 8 can't be used to block deportations.
Yeah, so it's Articles 3 and 8 that she's going for, but I agree with you that the overwhelming likelihood is that they won't budge on it, in which case the logic of her position is in order to do her job effectively, we're going to have to leave. The point is there's been a significant change of direction here that I really appreciate. And before we start jumping up and down and talk about the loopholes and what she hasn't done, I'd like a little bit of appreciation of what she has done in a context of intense hostility.
This is where partisan differences come in, right? Because I will never thank the Labour Party. This isn't about Shabana Mahmood. This is about a Labour Party that are simultaneously accusing, for example, reform of tearing the country apart, having presided over open borders, two-tiered justice, the imposition of asylum hotels, calling everybody far right, calling everybody racist. I think probably if I were to have a pint or a meal with Shabana Mahmood, I'm not sure if she drinks, I don't know, but I would imagine, actually, we'd probably see eye to eye on some issues. But I would still be there saying deep down, I bet, if you got her late at night, I bet she would say, you know what, even this, however tough it is, this isn't going to deal with the issue.
Quite. So I think this is an opening move. I really do. But what's significant to me is the direction of travel. I think that's really significant. And secondly, as a patriot, we've got 3.5 years left of this government. I'm not just going to slag it off all the time. I'm going to play a constructive role trying to move it in the right direction.
I was quite impressed with some of the things that she had to say and some of the tone in which she was using. I have to say, I was quite impressed when I saw her rebut some of the ridiculousness that was coming her way.
That was funny.
She was quite funny, actually, and she was quite good. However, for me, I still feel the opening gambit was in the wrong lane because, to me, whilst she was making welcome moves and steps in the right direction, her starting position was very much Britain is an open, tolerant country. So, yes, we still want migration, but just how do we do it better? And when I was speaking to my viewers last night, lots of them get in touch during the programme, as they are now. Many people's starting position, actually, Maurice, is no, we don't want to be an open country anymore. We've had enough. The numbers have gone too big. The culture has changed too fast. Our surroundings, our fellow people, the rate and pace of change is too much. So, no, we want our starting point, actually, to be to shrink people coming in, the numbers of people coming in, not to be standing on this platform where the starting position is open, tolerant, in you come, but let's just bring you in better.
Absolutely. So Matt could bear witness that I called for a freeze on immigration in 2011. If you remember, that didn't go so well, but that was true. And I agree, but there's two distinctions. I would like to see a much more closed immigration system, but I think it's a glory of our country that we're a tolerant country. I make a distinction between openness and toleration. I don't want to see violence on the street. I don't want to see racial hate. I want to see solidarity rather than diversity. Michelle, those are my positions. So I think that just to talk to your viewers directly, I think Shabana is the most significant politician in this cabinet, and to keep your eye on her.
Martin from Taunton says, Michelle, I am convinced the Home Secretary is lining herself up to be the leader. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but the problem with all of that, just briefly, is it's like saying Robert Jenrick is going to save the Tory party when everybody who knows the Tory party knows that the Tory party is dominated by One Nation Liberals who won't allow somebody like Jenrick to reshape it.
Shabana
Mahmood, yeah, sure, either way, globalists, whatever. Shabana Mahmood, as you know, being a friend of hers, you know she is still sitting in a party, a structure, a Labour parliamentary party, that will never allow that party to meet the average voter on immigration.
You know, this is really academic talk. You're talking about never. You'll be amazed what politics is like. Shabana Mahmood, I say to everybody, is a sovereigntist, not a globalist. That's the really interesting thing about her. And she's resolute on restoring effective state power and control. The Immigration Act is called Order and Control. That's her commitment. And this sovereignty is a traditional Labour Party position. Ernest Bevin, Clement Attlee, Hugh Gaitskell, you know the score. This is traditional Labour position. I hold that position, and I want to see the restoration of my party as a tribune of the working class with trust. There's a long way to go, but for the first time in my parliamentary life, I saw a significant shift yesterday.
Well, don't worry, the conversation will continue. Richard says, Michelle, my question is, where is Keir Starmer? Jeff asks exactly that same question as well. He's in Berlin. I'm not even kidding. He's in Berlin as we speak.
First we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin.
But it is a bit ridiculous, isn't it? If your country, if you are polling so badly and your party's polling so badly, you would actually think that you would want to be on the domestic stage trying to sort things out rather than cozying up to foreign leaders all the time. But anyway, that's the answer to your question. I happen to know that he's in Berlin tonight. The conversation will continue after the break, ladies and gents. What's he doing there? He's having a dinner. In fact, I can tell you who he's having a dinner with because I was just looking at it before the start of my programme. He's having dinner with Emmanuel Macron and Friedrich Merz. Why do I know where your leader is and you don't?
Oh, I don't follow the leadership like journalists do.
Oh, well, there you go. Anyway, look, the conversation will continue. We've got to talk about net migration. Lots of people celebrating today, actually, because the number has declined. Wait till you hear why it's declined, though. See you in a minute.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewbs, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dewbs & Co. with me, Michelle Dewberry, Matt Goodwin and Lord Glassman. I ended that final segment there just with one of my viewers suggesting that he thinks Shabana Mahmood is positioning herself to be the leader of the Labour Party. Should she be?
Well, I would love that at some future moment. I really do. People to know respect her very much. I think she's got the right values, but this is ridiculous what's going on with the constant things about the leadership. We've got a Prime Minister. He looks like he's allowing Shabana Mahmood to get on with her job, so that's enough for me.
He's doing a terrible job. He's doing a terrible job compared to the if you look at the polls where Labour is, if you look at the polling in terms of his favourability as a leader, I mean...
Look, we've got to get... Look, just changing a leader is not going to change really very much. There's got to be a fundamental ideological restructuring of the party, and I think Shabana Mahmood is certainly the leader at the moment of the wing that I'm in.
Muriel says, Michelle, when you say safe and legal routes, it makes my hair stand on end. You're going to close one door and you're going to open another. She says, if you ask me, this is just a simply rubbish plan to pull the wool over our ears. What do you say to Muriel?
Eyes.
I mean, I completely agree.
Eyes, actually. Yeah, she did say eyes. I said ears. I don't know why I added the word ears. Sorry, Muriel. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, it's classic Labour. It's close one door, open another. It's the one in, one out. It's the we're going to get tough and then we're going to open a new student scheme. It's we're going to look after Britain, then we're going to try and rejoin the EU through the back door. We're going to look after British workers while we're going to sell British workers off in a trade deal with India. I don't trust the Labour Party. I don't think they'll ever fix the borders. I think probably Shabana Mahmood's taken a step in the right direction, as we've already discussed, but it will not fix the small boat crisis.
When you say about rejoining, Matt says about rejoining the EU, you're chuntering in the background and God forbid, God forbid. Well, yeah, actually, many of my viewers voted to leave the EU.
Well, I voted and I campaigned hard to leave the EU.
But then why would you say God forbid that we go back in then?
God forbid that we should return to the EU, because Brexit was one of the greatest days of my life and we could be a sovereign free nation. I support sovereignty.
Oh, right. I thought you were saying, sorry, I've misunderstood you.
You've got totally the wrong end of the stick.
I thought you was being sarcastic and saying, oh, God forbid we do that, blah, blah, blah. I'll let you off the hook then.
That's really kind of you.
Yeah, there you go. It's normally the people that sit on this chair. This is why I'm getting discombobulated. Normally the people that sit to the left of me would be absolutely delighted to be dragging us, kicking and screaming back into the EU.
Over my dead body. Is that clearer?
Ladies and gents, what do you think? It's confusing having someone with common sense, no offence to the rest of my panellists, sitting in that left chair. Anyway, Matt, you want to come back in?
No, I didn't. No, I was just... No.
It was just what? Are we all just confused tonight?
Okay, Michelle, let's get it all straight.
Are we all just confused tonight? Shall I just move on then and talk about net migration? Because let me tell you now, many people today are feeling quite pleased because the net migration figure is actually reduced. It's 20% lower than previously thought. This is in relation to the ONS, and I've got to tell you, the ONS, they only got one job to do, and it is counting things. You think they'd be slightly better at this than they currently are, but no, they've revised the figure. But the primary reason that net migration has reduced, Matt Goodwin, is because the sheer volume of British people actually leaving the country.
Yeah, can I just firstly pour some cold water on this idea that migration is coming down? The numbers that we've got today, 944,000 in the year ending March 2023, which is the highest record, basically, in British history. And net migration for 2024 was 345,000. Shock horror, it's down from 431. That is still higher than net migration before Brexit. Now, the reason that these numbers have been revised is because the boffins at the ONS, the Office for National Statistics, have just realised that, oops, we massively undercounted the number of British people who are leaving. And now more than 250,000 Brits are voluntarily leaving this country, and I think we all have a sense as to why. They are fleeing the biggest tax burden that this country's had for 70 years. They're fleeing mass uncontrolled immigration. They're fleeing a housing market that isn't working for British people, and Dubai and Italy and Estonia and other places are welcoming them with open arms. This is what happens when you push a country into a big tax, big debt, big immigration, car crash, which Keir Starmer and the Labour Party are pushing us into. I'm not surprised they've left. To be honest, I think many people watching this show have probably had this discussion at home. Is it time to leave? And if I were to leave, where would I go? That is what people in this country are talking about. That's how bad things have become.
I've had that conversation at home as well, ladies and gents, and I got to if the ONS was here, by the way, they would say, look, the methodology of counting these people has actually changed. Before, they used to go to the ports and to the airports, they used to do surveys looking at who was coming and going. Now, they base it on things like national insurance, and they look at benefit system, taxation system. That's why they would argue numbers have changed so dramatically. Anyway, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, just to say that you wouldn't have the United States of America, you wouldn't have Australia, you wouldn't have New Zealand if it wasn't for people leaving England. I mean, it's not absolutely the fault of the present government that people are leaving the country. That's a long-standing trend. But obviously, what I say is I would never leave this country. I love it. We've got to be committed to it. And I don't think I don't support the exit option, people leaving. You've got to fight for what you believe and fight for the great things about our country. So that's one thing. But what I do agree with Matt about is the astonishing scale of the recent immigration. I mean, what you were talking about there, I saw statistics that there was 1 million migrants a year legally under the Conservative government that said they'd take back control. That's what I'm saying to you, Matt. There is a recognition at government level that this is out of control and has got to be fixed. I think that's the right way. We've got to build good relations with the people who are our neighbours. The situation we're in have been absolutely disgusting. So I understand why people leave, but I say to the viewers, love this country, stay and fight.
But let's say you're a 30-year-old young professional who is looking at the social contract in this country. They are being taxed to high heaven to basically subsidise a lot of people who don't even come from this country, who are living in social housing, who are claiming, as we learned this week, somewhere about £10 billion a year in welfare benefits. Their taxation is being used to fund, be very honest, to fund this country bringing in people who are going on to hurt our own people. The housing market doesn't make room for them. It seems to only prioritise people who are not from this country, particularly social housing. Nearly half of it in London has gone to people who weren't born in Britain, much higher, by the way, in certain parts of our major cities. And no one in Westminster seems to understand that if you're under the age of 40, why would you stay in this country? What exactly are you getting? Now, I understand if you've spent your whole life here, like yourself, and you're saying, I'd never leave. But I have young people coming up to me on the tube, around London, and they're saying, why am I here? What am I actually doing here anymore?
Absolutely, we've got to renew our covenantal bonds. I mean, I think it goes way beyond the contract. I think there's been a violation of the English and British covenant about the relationship between government and people through the generations. We've got to absolutely address the breakdown of that. I don't think it's strictly true to say that nobody in Westminster understands. I think there's quite a few of us who are on the job. So I totally understand why people would think they could leave, but the grass is always greener. The problem with going abroad is it's full of foreigners, you know.
John, one of my viewers, has just got in touch and said, Michelle, I've just literally been having that exact conversation with my 19-year-old son. He's a data cable engineer, and as soon as he's finished with his qualifications, he's leaving. He's going to Australia, says John. And lots of people are getting in touch saying that they have considered or are considering leaving the country. You just say, stand and fight, stay and fight for your country. Chance would be a fine thing, because actually many people watching this programme, they've tried to express their frustrations many times over the years. They've tried to fight for what they believe in at the ballot box. They've tried to take to the streets and protest for the safety of their local communities. They've tried to voice their concerns on social media, and actually they will be shouting at their screens, Maurice, that they feel that this Labour government is determined to shut those concerns down. not allow them to actually fight for their country?
Yeah, well, that's not what I'm about, and that's not at all what I'm talking about. I totally understand why people are frustrated. I totally understand why they would leave. Look, we secured Brexit by democratic vote, and we did it peacefully. That's an incredible achievement. More people were killed in France with the Gilets jaunes, way more than happened in the Brexit referendum. There's something worth preserving and fighting for in our country. That's all I'm saying, Michelle.
I mean, it seems to be almost every day now where you hear about these crimes. It's all well and good saying stay and fight for your country, but actually on the flip side of that is, you know what, I've got kids, I've got grandkids or whatever, and actually I want to preserve their safety. I saw just yesterday, I think it was, rush hour traffic on the London Underground, Balham Tube Station. You've got commuters cowering in a tube because you've got a guy with a knife roaming around.
Well, I think that if we just take a step back, what is it that actually makes a country stable and allows it to survive over the longer term? And it is this idea of the social contract. I will pay taxes, I will buy into this system, I will support this system, I will fund the welfare state for people I've never met, but in exchange, the government, the authority, will keep me safe and secure. They will provide me with a sense of security. That social contract today is blatantly being violated. Labour are about to put people's taxes up in the budget, inevitably, and they'll raise taxes on businesses and they'll raise taxes on the people who actually pay the largest share of tax income in this country, so that they can give that money to people who are breaking our laws. That is literally what is happening in this country. The British people are being forced to pay £15 billion for accommodation for people who are entering our country illegally. £15 billion. They are literally increasing taxes because they do not want to make different choices in Westminster, which would involve not allowing illegal migrants to have hotels and housing, which would say we're not going to give £10 billion a year to people who aren't British in the welfare system. We're not going to give £12 billion a year on foreign aid so we can fund cycling lanes in Mexico and condoms in Pakistan, and we're not going to give £3.5 billion a year in welfare benefits for people with mild mental health issues like anxiety who are not going out to work, when the people who are watching this show, the alarm clock class, manual workers, setting their alarm at night because they know they have to get up in the morning. I would like to hear the government speak a lot more about those people. You know, for example, today, the last 24 hours.
I do.
I'm not saying this isn't about, Maurice, this isn't about you. This is about the Labour government. So today, all I've heard from Labour politicians is, oh, my goodness, what about the children of refugees? Oh, my goodness, what about the children of asylum seekers? What about Victoria Agoglia, Charlene Downs, Lucy Lowe, Terence Carney, Thomas Roberts, Wayne Broadhurst, all of the British people who have been murdered by asylum seekers, illegal migrants, or the Pakistani Muslim rape gangs? That is a symbol to me of where the social contract has gone wrong. We do not have a political class that puts our own people first, and I think everybody in this country is sick of it.
Are you sick of it? What do you think? What do you make to it all? Lots more that we need to discuss after the break. Should the police be releasing ethnicity of criminals, and how soon should they do that? Also, Reform UK and the Tories giving press conferences today, setting out their plans. Let's take a look.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's going to be an unsettled week across eastern parts of the Mediterranean, with intense thundery rain by the weekend. Further west, it's drier, but there will be some rain around northern coastal parts of Spain, also pushing into parts of Portugal and West Spain as well. Also some rain across southern Italy, but it's further east, affecting Greece, Albania, Croatia and other nearby nations. This is where we're going to have the heaviest, most thundery rain, particularly as we go Friday and into Saturday. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening, this is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Now the cold theme will continue as we go through the next 24 hours, meaning there's going to be some frost, some ice, even some sleet and snow around, but snow is always quite tricky to forecast that specifically. That being said, we do have an area of low pressure making its way southeastwards at the moment, and it's this around it we have some outbreaks of rain, a bit of sleet and some hill snow pushing southwards across parts of England and also Wales overnight. Across Northern Ireland, fairly frequent showers pushing through, and these could be a wintry mix. Also across northern parts of Scotland, plenty of showers here. Central southern Scotland actually having some clear skies, so temperatures plummeting. A very cold night here. Elsewhere, well, it is going to be chilly for sure. Some frost, some ice to watch out for as well. We start the day across the southeastern third of England on a pretty wet note. Some hill snow as well to watch out for. A few showers pushing into coastal parts of Wales and southwest England. Wintry showers and icy patches to watch out for over parts of Northern Ireland and northeast England and across the northern half of Scotland. Well, here we have plenty of showers feeding in on that brisk northerly wind which is bringing Arctic air down, and so no wonder we're going to see these showers readily falling as sleet or snow. Could see up to 20 centimetres developing perhaps over some modest higher ground. Even elsewhere where we see those showers coming down both down the eastern side of England and some western parts, southwest Wales, southwest England, we could see some lying snow as well. It is going to be a cold day, temperatures for many a little bit lower than today and feeling pretty raw indeed despite the fact that there will be some sunshine around. Thursday's actually looking pretty similar to how we end Wednesday really, sticking with that northerly wind, so showers in the east, the north and perhaps towards the west, and these could be falling as rain, sleet or snow over any modest higher ground. Into Friday, and after a very cold frosty start for many, some rain's going to arrive later.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 8 million followers across social media. Thank you for making us a part of your daily life.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Significant travel disruptions are ongoing across various regions, affecting road and rail services. Severe weather on the A95 at Ballinderloch is causing delays by impeding heavy vehicles. In Devon, the A38 eastbound lane incident leads to congestion, while Nottinghamshire faces congestion on the A46. In Surrey, an accident adds to traffic on the M3 westbound. On the trains, Northern Rail is substituting buses between Corkhickle and Whitehaven, and ScotRail services face delays between Rutherglen and Glasgow Central. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, Lord Glassman and Matt Goodwin. Lots of you getting in touch with me. John says, Michelle, I can't believe no one seems to be concerned about Labour planning to open up even more safe routes. How on earth will this work? Well, I'm concerned about it, actually. I think Matt's concerned about it. Many people actually are concerned about it. Stephanie says, can't believe that nobody still is willing to put numbers onto these so-called safe and legal routes. David says, Michelle, I have to tell you, I've got to the point where I feel like I don't trust the British state. And Michelle says, how come, Michelle, when it comes to digital ID, it's us British people that now have to adopt these when actually it was supposed to be about trying to control illegal immigration? I hear you. Anyway, look, we've had multiple press conferences this morning, one from the Tories and one from Reform UK. Let's look at both. On Reform UK, this is what Zia Youssef had to say.
Here's the point. Here's the point. As Nigel said, this is a very specific set of proposals for Rachel Reeves that she could enact immediately. And by the way, that 25 billion, that compounds, as is in the document that we will share with you, that compounds significantly and multiplies over the coming years.
Well, look, I'm not sure it was quite in that clip there, but what they're basically proposing is a three-pronged approach. What they want to do is try and make £25 billion. This is all about trying not to make tax rises. They want to look at things like NHS surcharges for foreign-born residents and the same for universal credits as well. They want to look at budgets going to the EU as well. Kemi Badenoch actually came out and responded. Take a listen.
Nigel Farage and Zia Youssef are holding a press conference on how they would save money. But in reality, they want to increase benefits by scrapping the two-child benefit cap. They just don't get it. None of these parties do.
Absolutely.
The Conservative Party are the only party in this country committed to living within our means.
Well, talking about living within the means, the third strand of what Reform announced today was cutting the foreign aid budget by 90%.
Yeah, well, look, it's a national welfare state, it's not an international welfare state. It's a national health service, not an international health service. And I always say to my friends on the left, and believe me, I have one or two left, and I think maybe include Morris as one of them. If they want to destroy the welfare state, if they want to destroy the NHS, the easiest way of doing that is maintaining mass immigration, because it will undermine that. It will undermine the solidarity from within. But look, what Reform have said today, I personally agree with every word. We shouldn't be paying $8 billion a year on universal credit payments for people who aren't British. We shouldn't be spending $10 billion in foreign aid and sending condoms to Pakistan and eco farms in Nepal. And if people from outside of this country use the NHS, they should pay for it. That should be a basic feature of British life. And what's interesting, a lot of people won't know this, what's interesting is some of the things actually that Reform didn't mention today that they could have mentioned. You know, they could have said, well, we're going to cut $6 billion that the British people are forced to pay subsidising people who are not born in this country in social housing. But what they said is, no, actually, we're just going to start here. We're going to do this in a very responsible, measured way. We're going to show you where we can get the $25 billion from. There is a lot more that we could get if we needed to, but this is where we're going to start. And to be frank, everything that I heard today, I know the polling pretty well. I know what the British people think pretty well. Everything that they have announced today will be incredibly popular in this country.
You can summarise the approach that many people want to see in just one sentence, and that sentence is charity should begin at home.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I mean, one thing, Michelle, that I really think is that we can't avoid any longer very significant reform of welfare and actual state structures. The thing I'm into at the moment, if you're willing to talk about it, AI could probably get rid of 60% of civil service jobs, which are just email jobs and responding to queries. That's an enormous area of saving. And then we've got to go back to how do we rebuild compassion with each other, solidarity with each other? Well, it's not by what you're talking about, just giving people who don't deserve it the money. I think I'm really into the Frank Field thing, you know, contributory welfare system. I'm really into that at the moment. So there's got to be huge back of house, front of house state reform. I think we're moving into a radical era where you're not going to be able to avoid it. And definitely what you say, our first solidarity is with each other. Yeah. You know, that's got to come first. And
family. And I just say one thing in response to Kemi Badnoch very briefly. She did not... The Tories will never talk about how to boost families and encourage people to have more kids. To his credit, Nigel Farage is the only frontline politician recently who stood up and said, yeah, I'm going to do this welfare change because I want to support British families.
What, lift
families, families to have more kids.
People at home watching this saying, we don't want to pay for other people's kids if they can't afford them themselves.
To be frank, there are some policies where it doesn't matter if it's popular. What Nigel Farage has said is, for British families who have more kids, he wants to give them an incentive to have more kids. Because if we don't have more kids, Michelle, this country long-term is really doomed.
Well, ponder that then over the break, because I know a lot of you are getting in touch saying that you don't want to pay for other people's children if they can't afford their own. You get in touch with me all the time and say this, so ponder that. And let's return to that in 2-3 minutes. I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Dewbs & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, Matt Goodwin and Lord Glassman. Frank says, Michelle, Keir Starmer is abroad so often. At this rate, I'll be able to claim non-dom status in our own country. I hear you. Look, I asked you to ponder whether or not you would support the lifting of the two-child benefit cap. One of my viewers has said Matt Goodwin is wrong. Lifting the two-child benefit cap is corrupt and would disproportionately benefit immigrants.
No,
support working families through tax breaks, don't support shirkers. And then Kate, one of my viewers says, I would prefer it if workers were given tax breaks in relation to having more children rather than the cap being lifted.
Sorry.
Reward people through salaries is a much more effective way, in her opinion.
OK, and what have reforms said? That they would limit that to British nationals, parents who are working. So I hear people's concerns, but look, our birth rate is 1.5, OK?
But would you get that through the courts?
The birth rate to make...
Would you get that through the courts? So you've got two mothers. One of them is a British national. She has a fair kid. She gets the additional benefits. The other one is, I don't know, whatever, Somali, whatever, and she doesn't. Would you get that through the courts?
If yes, but especially so if we regain control of our laws and sovereignty, and we're not subordinate to ECHR and others. Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, our birth rate's 1.5. Nations don't survive with birth rates under 2.1. So everybody out there can think about this. How are we going to encourage people to have more kids? Because if you don't like immigration, if you don't want mass immigration, if you don't want all this endless churn and chaos, you're going to have British families having a lot more British kids.
You're going to have sex. Imagine that. Save your country.
Have a lot of sex.
Well,
Your country needs you.
By the way. Stay watching telly till don't all rush off, be inspired by these
No. If you want to have sex, please have it as long as you're married.
Right, yeah, lovely. Shall we just move on? So what do you think to the child benefit cap?
Look,
they've lost it now, these two. Their minds have wandered. Look, I need to try and bring it back for the last 3 minutes. Go on, Maurice.
I had four kids. It was the greatest thing I ever did with my life. I think it's wonderful to have children and wonderful to have a family. I don't think people who have children should be penalised. In fact, we should support people staying together. You know, I'm very, very strong for love and marriage and solidarity and sacrifice and all that.
I'd like to see us do what the Hungarians and the Poles are doing. If you have 2 or more kids, you get much more favourable tax rates, maybe even building this into mortgages somehow. So if you're a young British couple, you're having 2 or more kids, maybe you get a much more preferable mortgage rate. So whatever it is, we need to start thinking outside the box.
Within marriage.
We need to start thinking outside the box.
Yeah, that's what lots of you are getting in touch and just saying, Michelle, it should just be relating to working people.
Well,
you shouldn't be able to
that's what the policy is.
Have your children and
Can
just
I ask
literally...
a question though, Michelle?
Go on.
Like when we had our third child, my wife gave up work. Are you saying that we wouldn't be eligible because she wanted to look after the children?
It's not me saying it, it's my
I'm
viewers.
just talking about that detail. I mean, it should be working couple.
Yeah.
But if one of them's working and the other's looking after the children, that's cool.
Well, this is the challenge now, and I say this as a working mum myself. The challenge for women like me, we were told as we were growing up, you can have it all, you can have it all, you can be a professional. And do you know what? It was an absolute out-and-out lie. I remember walking around and saying, my 30s are for me. That's a sentence that used to come out of my mouth all the time. And I used to focus on work and career. And it was only when I turned 40 that I thought to myself, all right, OK, I'll start thinking about having kids and whatnot. I left it way, 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 way too late. I would say to women like me that focus on career and all the rest of it, you've been sold a pup. You can't just pass up your 30s to focus on career. And then all of a sudden, when you hit the big 4, start going on dates and saying to men, hey, can I get you a pint? And how many kids do you want with your pint? It doesn't work like that, unfortunately, ladies and gents. And honestly,
I'm with you. Oh, that's a great little
And it's not just women, by the way, because so many men roam around thinking that they are Peter Pan. They don't want to settle down and have kids either.
Well,
anyway, Terry.
More fool them.
Terry says, what a compelling programme tonight. They've really enjoyed the panel. He says, there's been a bit of a spat between Michelle and Morris, though. Has they?
What happened?
Did we fall out?
I don't think so.
No,
but
listen.
let's try and do it now.
Let me tell you, I can I could have an argument in an empty room, me. Anyway, look, we do robust, respectful debates on this programme. Everyone has different opinions, and that's absolutely not a problem. The world would be very boring if we all agreed. Anyway, look, these two got themselves all hot and bothered, I think, or hot under the collar on that extra children debate. So I shall bid them all farewell. Bid you farewell. Let these two go and have a cold shower and control themselves. But for now, I will say...
need more children.
I will say thank you to these two. Have a great night. Whatever you're up to, I think I can imagine now. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. This is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Now, the cold theme will continue as we go through the next 24 hours, meaning there's going to be some frost, some ice, even some sleet and snow around. But snow is always quite tricky to forecast that specifically. That being said, we do have an area of low pressure making its way southeastwards at the moment, and it's this around it. We have some outbreaks of rain, a bit of sleet and some hill snow pushing southwards